My dear friends, we are living in a time where many are waiting for a miracle, waiting for someone to notice their pain, waiting for a hand to reach down and lift them out of the pit. But hear me now, no one is coming to save you. No prince on a white horse, no perfect job, no long-lost family member with a check in the mail. And you know what? That's not a reason for despair. That's a reason to wake up. So many walk through life burdened by the false hope that someone, somewhere will eventually swoop in and make everything right. Maybe it's a partner, maybe a boss, a mentor, a friend, a parent, someone who'll fix what's broken, clean up the mess, offer the hand that lifts us out of the ditch. We cling to this illusion like a man lost at sea clings to a piece of driftwood, hoping it will carry him back to shore. But deep down, if we're honest, we know the truth. That help is not coming in the way we imagine. No one is going to come and live your life for you. No one is going to carry the weight that was assigned to your back. And while that may sound harsh to some ears, it is in fact one of the most liberating truths you will ever encounter. I remember meeting a young man after one of my messages, his eyes heavy, his shoulders slumped, his voice a whisper. He said, "Brother, I've been waiting for a breakthrough for years, and it just hasn't come." I looked him in the eyes and said, "Maybe you're not waiting on the breakthrough. Maybe the breakthrough's waiting on you." His silence spoke volumes. You see, the enemy of your soul wants you to stay in that place of waiting. He wants you to believe the lie that your life is on pause until someone else presses play. But God did not create you to be a spectator in your own story. He did not design you to sit at the gate, hoping someone else opens the door. No, He placed the key in your hand. You were never meant to be rescued by man. You were meant to be raised up by God through your own decision to act in faith and move forward, even with trembling steps. The illusion of rescue numbs us. It keeps us passive. It convinces us to trade effort for excuses. We tell ourselves, I'd change if someone just helped me. I'd be free if someone just noticed me. I'd heal if someone just loved me better. But God's word calls us higher. It says, arise, shine, for your light has come. Not wait, not wish, not whine. Arise, you already have the light. You already have the power of heaven behind you. The only thing left is your decision to stand. And standing doesn't mean you have all the answers. It doesn't mean the pain goes away overnight. It means you stop hoping someone else will do what only you can do. You take the first step. You show up. You say, I may be broken, I may be tired, but I will not stay here. That's the turning point. That's the death of the illusion and the birth of transformation. It's not cruelty that God won't let someone else save you, it's mercy. Because the moment you realize that no one is coming, you start to rise. You realize that you have to choose healing. You have to face the past. You have to fight for your future. And in doing so, you don't just survive, you begin to truly live. There comes a moment in every man's life, a quiet, undeniable moment when the noise around him fades and he is left with the truth. A moment when he realizes that the cavalry is not coming, that no applause, no advice, no handout will lift him from the weight of his own decisions. And in that moment, something begins to stir. Something ancient, something holy. It is the awakening within the spark God Himself placed in every soul from the beginning of time. That spark is the power to choose, the power to change, the power to stand. You see, this isn't about arrogance. This isn't about relying on flesh or pride. This is about understanding that God breathed into you the breath of life, not so you could remain asleep, but so you could wake up and walk in His purpose. When we talk about fixing our lives, we're not talking about doing it apart from God. We're talking about aligning ourselves with the Spirit He already placed in us. That still small voice that says, you were made for more. Get up. I've stood on the edge of despair where the world grows dim and your heart wonders if it's even worth trying anymore. And it was in that place, not in comfort, not in success, but in brokenness, that I first heard that awakening whisper. You are not what they said about you. You are not the sum of your mistakes. You are mine. And in that moment, I understood that no one else could do the work for me. God had given me a shovel, but I had to dig. That spark, that awakening is the beginning of a new life. It's not the thunderous roar of a crowd. It's not the grand gesture of someone else saving the day. It's that quiet rising within your chest that says, enough is enough. I'm taking my life back. It's the realization that God didn't place you on this earth to coast. He placed you here to conquer, to overcome, to live with power and conviction. The Bible says, greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. That means the strength you need isn't locked away in someone else. It's already inside of you, waiting to be awakened. That strength is forged in the fire of obedience, in the furnace of daily choices, in the stillness of your prayer closet when no one is watching. That strength is God in you, working through you, but only when you stop waiting and start moving. So when you feel that stirring, don't ignore it. That is your call. That is your cue. That is the moment when heaven brushes up against your weariness and says, now is the time. And once that awakening takes root, once you recognize what God has placed inside of you, no one can take it away. No circumstance, no failure, no fear. The world doesn't need another person waiting to be rescued. It needs someone who's been awakened, someone who knows who they are. Someone who understands that God doesn't just redeem lives, He rebuilds them through the hands and hearts of those who are willing to rise. And that rise always begins on the inside. Taking responsibility, true soul-deep responsibility, is not about guilt and it's not about shame. It's about power. It's about standing in the wreckage of what was and saying, I may not have caused every storm, but I choose how I will rebuild after it. It's not easy. The world will hand you excuses like candy. It will tell you that you're a victim, that you're stuck, that your past defines your future. But friend, that is a lie straight from the pit. The moment you decide to take responsibility for your life is the moment you stop being powerless. It's the moment you go from passenger to pilot, from victim to victor. I remember a time in my life when I had every reason to blame others. I was angry, I was hurt. And the truth was I had been wronged. People had failed me. Circumstances had crushed me. But every day I pointed the finger outward, I grew colder inside. I stayed stuck. And it hit me like a flood. Change doesn't start with them. It starts with me. That was the day I picked up the mirror. Not to condemn myself, but to look myself in the eye and say, this life, my choices, my reactions, my dreams, that's on me. And the moment I did, something shifted. I no longer waited for apologies to move forward. I didn't need every wound to be acknowledged before I started to heal. I didn't wait for the world to make it right before I decided to live right. I took hold of what was mine, my faith, my thoughts, my habits, and I started walking forward, one step at a time. You see, taking responsibility is the first step toward freedom. When you stop blaming the world, the people who hurt you, the systems that failed you, you stop giving them power over you. You stop chaining your destiny to someone else's decisions. It's not saying they were right. It's saying, I'm not letting them write the rest of my story. There's a sacredness in owning your life, in saying, I will no longer sit in the ashes cursing the fire. I will rise and build again. That is where you meet God, not in your perfection, but in your decision to take the first step. That's when heaven leans in, because God can work with a man who takes ownership. God can bless a life that's surrendered and stewarded. He can multiply what you're willing to offer, but you've got to bring it. So many are waiting for permission to move forward, waiting for closure, waiting for the right moment. But the only permission you need is already written in the scars of the cross. Jesus didn't die so you could sit still. He died so you could live fully, freely, and with purpose. That kind of life begins when you stop running from your responsibility and start running toward your calling. And let me tell you something else. When you take responsibility, your past loses its grip. Your pain becomes purpose. Your mistakes become lessons. And your story becomes a testimony, not of how life was easy, but of how God was faithful when you chose to walk in the truth. Faith without action is like a lamp with no oil. It might look the part, but it cannot light the way. Too many people say they're waiting on God, when in truth, God is waiting on them. Yes, prayer is powerful. Yes, the presence of the Lord is essential. But my friend, you cannot just pray for change, you must walk it out. You can't just hope for healing, you must pursue it. You can't only believe for a breakthrough, you must live like it's coming, work like it's coming, sow like it's coming. Because faith is not a passive feeling, it is a living, breathing force that moves mountains when put into motion. I remember a woman I met at a revival years ago. Tears streamed down her face as she told me how she'd been praying for a new job, for a new life. But prayer is not a substitute for obedience. Prayer prepares your heart for the journey, but you still have to take the journey. You still have to put one foot in front of the other. The same God who fed Elijah by ravens also told him where to go to receive that provision. Had he stayed where he was, the blessing would have never come. You see, God partners with our faith, but he responds to our steps. That means you don't wait until you feel ready. You don't wait until all the fear is gone. You move forward with trembling hands, with knees that shake, but with a heart that trusts. And when you do, the impossible begins to shift. The heavens begin to open. Doors you never saw coming begin to swing wide, not because you earned them, but because you acted in faith. The Apostle James says it clearly, faith without works is dead. That doesn't mean we earn God's love, it means we live like we believe it. If you believe God will deliver you, start walking like a free man. If you believe he's restoring your life, begin to build like something new is coming. If you believe he has called you, then speak, serve, give, love, move in a way that makes your faith visible to the world. Because the world isn't changed by what we believe silently. It's changed by what we do boldly. So if you say you have faith, then let that faith move your hands, your feet, your voice, your plans. Let it push you to wake up earlier, to forgive faster, to work harder, to love deeper. Let it guide your decisions even when it's uncomfortable. Because that's where transformation happens, not just in prayer, but in the obedience that flows from it. You have to stop waiting for perfect conditions. Because if you wait for the wind to be just right, if you wait for the clouds to part and the sun to shine just so you'll never set sail. Life is not designed to accommodate our hesitations. It moves forward with or without us. The clock doesn't pause while we debate. The seasons don't delay because we're afraid. If you're waiting for the fear to leave before you act, you'll be waiting forever. Fear doesn't vanish, it's conquered. It's pushed back with each step you take into the unknown. I remember a time when I was afraid to speak, to share my heart, to tell my story, to use my voice. I thought maybe if I just wait a little longer, I'll be more ready. Maybe next year when things settle down. Maybe after I've healed a little more. But that day never came. And I realized something that changed my life. Readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. It's not something you wait for, it's something you declare. And when I finally stepped out, trembling as I was, the ground didn't fall out from under me. It rose to meet me. That's how faith works. That's how growth begins. You move and grace meets you in motion. You act, and heaven responds. But so many of us are waiting for permission from people who don't understand our calling. We're waiting for clarity from a world that thrives on confusion. We're waiting for certainty when God simply said, go. We say, I'll start when I feel strong. But strength is built by starting. We say, I'll begin when I know exactly how. But the path unfolds as we walk it. The book of Ecclesiastes says, whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. In other words, the person who keeps waiting for everything to line up perfectly will never take the first step. And if you never take the step, you'll never see the harvest. You'll never know what God could have done with your obedience. You'll stay stuck in the cycle of delay while your destiny waits untouched, just beyond your reach. And here's the truth that cuts through all the excuses. If you're breathing, you're able. You don't need every resource, every connection, every assurance. You need a made-up mind. You need the kind of resolve that says, even if I'm scared, I'm moving. Even if I fail, I'll learn. Even if I fall, I'll rise again. That's the attitude God blesses. That's the spirit He anoints. That's the person He chooses to use, not the one who has it all figured out, but the one who dares to step out while still uncertain. So don't wait for the storm to pass before you build. Don't wait for the crowd to cheer before you speak. Don't wait for every question to be answered before you answer the call. The moment is now. The ground is holy. The fire is in your bones. And what God has placed in you is greater than the fear that tries to paralyze you. Start where you are with what you have and trust that the God who called you will meet you as you go. You've got to put in the work when nobody's watching. That's where the real battle is won, not on the stage, not in the spotlight, not when the applause is loud and the eyes are on you, but in the quiet, sacred moments when it's just you, your effort, and your God. That's the grind that shapes you. That's where character is forged, where discipline is born, and where faith is tested. Because anybody can perform when the crowd is cheering. But who are you when the stands are empty? I remember waking up before the sun, when the world was still asleep, dragging myself out of bed with a dream in my heart and nothing but silence in the room. No one was clapping, no one was watching. There was no validation, no reward, no spotlight, just the decision to keep going. To show up for the vision God had given me, even when nothing around me looked like it was working. And in those early hours, God did something in me that couldn't have been done any other way. He stretched me. He tested me. He built something in my soul that was stronger than emotion, deeper than hype, more rooted than motivation. He gave me grit. This world is obsessed with results, with recognition, with being seen. But heaven is moved by faithfulness. God watches how you handle the little things before He entrusts you with more. Jesus said, "He who is faithful in little will also be faithful in much." That means your secret labor isn't wasted. Your unseen obedience isn't ignored. The tears you cry in silence, the sacrifices no one applauds, the hours you grind in anonymity, they are being recorded in eternity. It's in the shadows that your roots go deep. It's in the obscurity that your foundation is laid. Because what good is a platform if your soul is weak? What good is a blessing if your character can't carry it? God often delays promotion not because He's punishing you, but because He's preparing you. And preparation happens in the hidden places, in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the moments you feel forgotten but remain faithful anyway. You've got to show up for your calling like it already came to pass. You've got to pray like the answer's on the way. Work like the doors are opening. Train like the opportunity is coming, because it is. But it won't wait for you to feel ready. It will come when God says it's time, and when that moment arrives, you'll either be prepared or you won't. So keep working when no one claps. Keep writing when no one reads. Keep building when no one believes. Because your faithfulness in the dark is what qualifies you for the light. And when that door swings open, and you'll walk through it not with ego, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows, I've already paid the price. I've already put in the work. I've already passed the test that mattered most, the one nobody else could see. There comes a time when you stop asking for permission and start walking in the authority God already gave you. Too many of us are waiting for someone to validate us, to tell us we're enough, to give us the green light before we move. But friend, let me tell you this plain and clear: if God called you, that's all the confirmation you need. You don't need the crowd to agree. You don't need the approval of those who never saw your vision. You've been waiting on a yes from people who were never meant to understand your purpose. The truth is, some people will never celebrate you, not because you're not called, but because they're too bound to their own fear to recognize freedom when they see it. I remember walking into a new season of my life, scared out of my mind, but determined not to go back to who I used to be. I had waited long enough for someone to affirm me, to tell me I was ready, to reassure me that I was doing the right thing. But the more I waited, the more stagnant I became. Then one day I heard the whisper of the Spirit say, "Why are you asking for what I've already given you?" And it hit me. I had authority, I had grace, I had the Spirit of the living God dwelling in me. What was I waiting for? The Bible says the righteous are as bold as a lion. But boldness doesn't come from the crowd clapping for you. It comes from knowing who you are and whose you are. It comes from walking in your identity as a child of God, blood-bought, spirit-filled, and heaven-sent. That kind of boldness is dangerous to the enemy. That kind of boldness doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't apologize for existing. It doesn't shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone. It walks tall, speaks truth, loves deep, and moves forward even when the path isn't fully clear. You've got to get to the place where your obedience matters more than anyone's opinion, where your purpose speaks louder than your insecurity, where your mission outweighs your need for approval. Because the calling on your life is too great to be delayed by the fear of being misunderstood. The very people you're afraid to lose might be the ones God needs to remove so you can rise. When you realize you've already been chosen, already been anointed, already been sent, you stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for perfect alignment and start trusting divine assignment. You stop second guessing and start walking like the miracle you are. You realize that the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead lives in you, and that changes everything. So rise up, walk in what's already been given. Stop waiting for applause and start moving with authority. You've got work to do. You've got souls to reach. You've got chains to break. And you don't need anyone to validate your calling because heaven already did. So here we are, standing at the crossroads between excuses and execution, between fear and faith, between waiting for rescue and rising to responsibility. And I came to tell you today with fire in my bones, no one is coming to save you because God already put everything you need inside of you. The world may never hand you what you deserve. The applause may never come. The road may never get easier. But you weren't called to comfort, you were called to courage. You were not designed to drift, you were born to build. And yes, the nights may get long, the battles may get fierce, but you are not powerless and you are not alone. God has already spoken, now it's your turn to move. Your healing won't come from waiting, it'll come from walking. Your breakthrough won't happen by chance, it'll come by decision. And your purpose? It's not in the hands of others. It's already in your hands, shaped by fire, refined by trial, blessed by grace. So stop begging the world to notice you. Stop waiting for someone to choose you. You have been chosen. You have been equipped. And you are more than enough. Now rise up. Fix your life. Build what God told you to build. Become who He made you to be. And let the world see what happens when a person stops waiting to be rescued and starts living like they've already been redeemed. Amen.